And the final white wine in this lineup is a 2006 wine. Now 2005 was a great vintage in our region. 2006, for us, it's purely a personal opinion, but I think it's mirrored by quite a few other people also. We felt that 2006 for white wines was arguably even better than 05, simply because if there's a criticism of 05 for whites, it's the fact that it was a little warmer than usual. We had a huge number of days where the temperatures were 80 degrees. Now if you're making Shiraz or Cabernet Sauvignon, that's what you absolutely need, for months and months on end. If you're producing Chardonnay, particularly Northern Hemisphere style Chardonnay, you don't want too much hot sun, because sun will equate to great ripeness, which in turn leads to very high sugars, which in turn leads to slightly higher alcohol levels and a slightly thicker, fatter style of wine. And so 06 was a little cooler as a vintage, not much, but a little bit. And we felt that as a white wine vintage, it was really outstanding. This is our Meursault. Meursault is one of the very, very best white wine villages in the whole of our region and indeed the world. This is from two different vineyard sites. One is reasonably young, just under 30 years old, and the other is 50 years old, so an average age of 40 years across two parcels, which for Chardonnay is about, I think, where you want to be. You don't want really incredibly old vines unless you're looking for a style of wine that is going to be very, very rich and buttery and powerful. This you'll already notice, you can see partly by the colour above everything else. If you compare it to the colour of your first wine, those who haven't drunk it all, you'll be able to see that this is quite yellow by comparison, and that would be normal for Meursault. It's a richer, fuller, fatter style of wine anyway. This has been barrel aged. This has had nearly 14 months in barrel. So we would have harvested the fruit for this in the 4th week of September of 06, and it was bottled just before Christmas 07. So it's had nearly 14 months in barrel. However, we don't use many new oak barrels. 25% of the blend for this would have been new oak barrels, and 75% would have been 1- and 2-year-old wood. And that's relevant because the barrels are important not so much as a source of oak influence on the wine, but more because the wine is able to breathe through the barrels. Barrels are not sort of hermetically sealed in the way a stainless steel tank can be. And so the wine is able to breathe and oxidate and effectively have its edges knocked off very, very, very slowly over the course of 12 to 14 months, 14 months in this case, and then it was bottled. And so you're tasting it now, as it happens, 14 months after it was bottled in March of 2009. And I think you can see it's a lot richer, it's a lot more complex. That's not because of anything we've done to it particularly, that's simply because the nature of the fruit is, in those two vineyard sites that we use in Meursault, is a lot more powerful and a lot more complex anyway. So I think you can see that translates into the wine. Again, 100% Chardonnay. Those three wines are very, very different. I'm not saying that all of you will love all three of them, but they're deliberately different, they're stylistically different, and that's how they should be. So I hope you've enjoyed those. It's important to stress that even though our approach with regard to the name of our business, our packaging, our marketing, and what we're trying to do is very, I suppose, un-French in many ways, the wines themselves are very, very classically made. We feel that this is very much a true reflection of the vineyards of Meursault. We feel the Chablis is a true reflection of the vineyards of Chablis, and we don't want to change that. If there's one stunning thing about our region, and we feel very proud to live there and be involved with it, it's that they do have some of the greatest vineyard sites on the planet for Chardonnay and Pinot Noir. And there's absolutely nothing we want to change about that with regard to the winemaking. Our approach with regard to packaging and having a name like that is simply to make it a little bit easier for people who would normally not even dream of buying a bottle of Burgundy, because many of them wouldn't even be aware of the fact that it was Chardonnay or Pinot Noir, or they'd be put off by the name or the price, or because they didn't know the individual producer, or a myriad of other reasons. We're trying to address those facts, not because we're bored, but because we're trying to make it easier for people to buy from the region and buy our wines.
Now might be a good time if anybody has questions about the white wine. And then, do you want me to pass some of these bottles around so people can see?
Yeah, by all means.